Nature's balance is important to all living things. But isn't it odd how we take nature so much for granted? Particularly the importance of nature to remain in balance and our responsibility to help maintain its ecological wellness. We not only need nature's balance, but we also use nature for our enjoyment. Only when something happens and grabs our attention do we become aware of the importance and our reliance upon nature. April 10th, 2010 did just that. It grabbed our attention, and the effects were ecological imbalances of living things and environments. As we cruised toward the seemingly still waters and a peaceful sunset just a short distance from Coffee Island, the waters ripple in protest to what is happening in the underseas. On the surface, there is no evidence to the naked eye of the turmoil that exists just a short distance below the water's surface. Conflicting reports of approximately 13,000 gallons per hour of crude oil is spilling into the underseas, forging a path of destruction. Merciless of all living things in its path, the ecological upset is unsurpassed by any major event, storm, or catastrophe in the Gulf Coast history. Then all of a sudden we start to take notice. This is not atypical. No seabirds, no fish jumping, and the waters bear a brownish foam instead of its natural white glistening beauty. The BP oil spill has upset nature's balance, and instead of cruising for a night of fishing, we cruise to attempt to clean up and restore ecological wellness. Day one of our cleanup finds us heading towards Coffee and Dauphin Island. We're to troll the islands to ensure that the booms are in place and warding off the oil slicks heading our way. On this hot, humid May night, we will begin our first 12-hour shift, starting at 6 p.m. and ending no later than 6 a.m. Any sighting of dead marine life and/or oil slicks are to be reported via radio aboard our vessel. It is a 32-foot wooden oyster boat. Instead of heading the vessel toward an oyster bed as it is intended, we head into waters that are slowly emerging as dead zones. As we troll the west side of the island, everything in nature appears to be unaware of the danger lurking just below the surface. Dolphins swim close to our boat. Seabirds dive for fish that jump just above the water surface. But as we approach the east side of the island, nothing is moving about the waters. Shortly we approach a seabird perched upon a pylon trying to fly. We draw closer. We can see that the dark, murky substance has started covering the bird, obstructing the bird's ability to fly. Our first sign of the toll that the oil spill has taken on the environment and its living things in the environment. We reach the radio and report the incident and the appropriate personnel to capture the seabird, with the goal to clean the substance from the bird. In day 3 of the oil cleanup, we are assigned to Coffee Island, Dauphin Island, and on toward what is known as Katrina Cut. Katrina Cut is a channel opening from the bay into the Gulf waters. As we round Coffee Island, our 32-foot oyster boat, its engine begins to grunt as it propels through the waves, reaching nearly 4 to 5 feet. A storm is approaching and stirring the muggy waters. No longer are the waters glistening white caps, but turning a sheen mixture of green and brownish colorations. Then we see what appears to be cornflakes sprawling all out before us, floating by our boat. The cornflakes become thicker and thicker, until finally small clumps appear. Our engine sputters, stalls momentarily, and finally goes dead amongst the thick sheen and clumps floating by us. Day 10 brings more evidence on the effects of the oil spill that has had on the ecological environments. Our cleanup adventure deepens our awareness of all that we took for granted. No longer can we fish for oysters for our living or enjoyment. The booms, once bright orange and clean, are now being coated with the black skim and visible in the day, but at night seemingly disappear into the darkness. They are all lined around the island, but we cannot see them without shining our boat light directly upon them. Our 12-hour shift is in silence, with the exception of boat engines and the radio chatter of sightings of oil slicks and dead marine life. The dead zone is here. The morning of the 11th day ended our 12-hour shift. We headed back to the dock, taking note of the odor that emerged in the thick, humid air. The rotten egg-like odor, the smell of the dead marine life, and the chemicals being dispensed as the waves washed over the rails of the boat. As the waves washed back and forth, it left a slimy, greasy film on us and the rails, with a brown residue in its wake. A dolphin beached itself on a sandbar at the mouth of the dock channel entry in its attempt to escape the evasion of the crude oil beneath the waters. Saddened by the sight, we shook our heads as we docked in dismay and awareness of the toil that the oil spill has taken upon what we once took for granted. There were many more days left of the oil cleanup, and as each day and night passed by, we learned how important nature is to all living things. Also, it is all of our responsibility to keep our environment in balance and safe from destruction. We should not only seek the pleasures of nature has to offer, but now knowing that all living things depend on our ecological wellness, or we too will become victims of the dead zones.